Listen, Whole Foods Market is a great place to get everything that we need for a fantastic summer barbecue. They have the chicken thighs, the ground beef. We love to have salmon burgers, uncured hot dogs. Plus, there's all the other things that you love for a summer barbecue, the ice cream, the tortilla chips, the salsas, salad kits. You can get it all at Whole Foods Market.
And look for hundreds of yellow low price signs that help you save without compromising the quality you expect from Whole Foods Market. There are so many ways to save on summer grilling favorites at Whole Foods Market.
Guess what? Discover's accepted at 99% of the places that take credit cards nationwide. You heard right, 99%. If you don't think so, maybe it's time to face facts. You're stuck in the past. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard.
Lemonada.
Hello, we're here for More Happier, a podcast where we talk about ways to get happier. Join us for some weekend listening with a looser vibe. Hey, Elizabeth.
Hi, Gretchen.
Today we'll talk about an observation about expectations that I've been thinking about lately, and we will consider a second question along the lines of the question, do you love to feed? But first, something making us happier. Elizabeth, what's making you happier?
Well, Gretchen, my recent James Taylor concert that I went to is making me happier. So Sarah got for Mother's Day a ticket to see James Taylor at the Santa Barbara Bowl, which is an outdoor concert venue in Santa Barbara that I've always wanted to go to. So I got a ticket to go with her. And we went and just had the best time. And I have to say, I've talked about how 2025 is going to be my summer of yacht rock. I decided to default to yacht rock all summer to put myself in a summer mood. James Taylor is high on the list of yacht rock artists. So it turned out to be this perfect thing of kicking off my yacht rock summer with James Taylor.
Well, he's just, iconic. It must have just been so exciting to see him in performance.
Yeah, he was so great. It was such a just fantastic concert. He sounded terrific. His backup singers were amazing, including his son, which was fun. He sang a duet with his son. Always loved to see, the kids on stage. Also, I should mention the Santa Barbara Bowl, if you ever get a chance to go, is so great. It's less than 5,000 seats, I believe. And you can actually see the ocean.
Oh, my gosh.
From probably any seat in the house.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's just a fun night.
What's your favorite James Taylor song?
A Steamroller, which he sang.
Yeah.
How about you?
I don't know. I'd have to go through and listen. He's got so many amazing songs. This is putting me in the mood to go listen to a bunch of James Taylor. I will report back on my favorite song.
Well, Gretch, I remember you made a mixtape once in high school that had Mexico on it.
Oh, I love that song. Yeah. Gosh, you have a good memory. That's right.
What about you, Gretch? What's making you happier?
Well, we have our puppy Taffy, and I have to say it's making me happier that we're sort of learning her patterns, her ways, her tells. And I think she's learning our patterns, our ways, our tells. She clearly now knows the sign of the elevator door shutting and that means that somebody's probably coming in. So she'll look expectantly. And now I know if she gets nippy in a certain kind of way, it means she needs to go outside. We're getting a sense of when she's going to be thirsty and when she's going to be sleepy. And everything is just getting easier because at the beginning, it's all just like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what's going on. I mean, you can see that she felt that way and we felt that way. And she's getting more used to Barnaby. Barnaby's getting more used to her. So it's just that everything is getting easier as we're settling in. And so at the beginning, it was very overwhelming, but already I'm feeling like, okay, this is getting easier to manage. And the fun is really there and it doesn't feel quite as overwhelming.
Well, Gretchen, I have a question. Is she old enough that you can tell how her personality is different from Barnaby's, or does she still just seem puppy?
She still just seems puppy.
Okay.
I don't have a sense of it yet. That's a good question. We should start paying attention to that. Yeah. They both love treats. I will say that. If they think that there's an opportunity to have a treat, they will both come a-running. In fact, Barnaby, we have a treat bag, because you got to reinforce constantly when you're trying to get them used to going outside. So Barnaby, I had it up on a counter, but it's got a strap, and Barnaby somehow got the strap in his mouth, dragged it off, and then ate every treat in the bag. And it was magnetically closed. So he must have like slid his tongue in 3 inches and then like slowly pulled them out. I heard this strange scrunching sound after a minute. I was like, what is that strange scrunching sound? I was like, okay, Barnaby's figured out this is where to get the treats, and I am bigger, I'm faster, and I'm going to get this whole bag to myself, and he did. So now we know, put the treat bag up high because he's figured that out.
Well, I have yet to meet a dog who does not love treats.
These two are part of that. But I have something else that's making me happy. I am super excited to be participating in the mid-year reset challenge on Insight Timer. Insight Timer is a big meditation and mental health app. And each day in June, you will find a free 5-minute practice to help you pause and consider how the year's been going. I'm doing a session. My session is on June 12th, and it explores the concept of drifts. That is when we make a decision by not deciding. So you can join free on the Insight Timer app, and you can tune in on June 12th for my 5-minute guided session. You can just search Insight Timer in the App Store or Google Play to download and join the challenge today. Super fun.
Oh, yay. I love Insight Timer.
Great.
All right, Gretch, coming up, there's something you've been meaning to ask me, but first, this break.
Hey, Julia Louis-Dreyfus here. If you listen to me on my Wiser Than Me podcast, you probably already know that I'm an investor and an evangelist for the Mill Food Recycler. There are a lot of reasons to love Mill, but for me, it's all about the impact. Keeping food out of the garbage is one of the most powerful things we can do to help the planet every single day. We're talking banana peels, carrot tops, old takeout. When that stuff heads to the landfill, it becomes a huge driver of climate change. If you already compost, great. But of course, there's the smell, the flies, the running to the curb every day with a little leaking compost bag made of cornstarch. That's where Mill comes in. It makes keeping food out of the trash as easy as dropping it in. It can handle nearly anything, from a turkey carcass to like 20 avocado pits. It works automatically while you sleep. You can keep filling it for weeks, and it never, ever smells. Mill makes dry, nutrient-rich grounds that you can use in your garden, add to your compost, feed to your chickens, or Mill can get them back to a small farm for you. But you kind of have to live with Mill to really get it, and that's why they offer a risk-free trial. Go to mill.com/wiser for an exclusive offer.
Gretch, we talk all the time about how important it is to get a good night's sleep. Well, I think I have figured out the hack to getting my perfect night's sleep, and it starts with my adjustable pillows from CoSleep Goods. I have the Eden adjustable, which keeps me cool, and I absolutely love it, Gretchen. Literally, when I go to sleep at night and I put my head on that pillow, I think about how much I love this pillow. It's taken the place. I used to have 2 pillows that I didn't like. Now I have 1 pillow that I love.
Well, after all, we spend a third of our lives in bed, so it really helps to get a pillow that's customized. CoSleep Goods has a sleep quiz that makes it very easy for listeners to find the perfect pillow for them. Visit CoSleepGoods.com/happier to get 20% off your first order. That's COOP sleepgoods.com/happier.
All right, Gretchen, we are back. There's something you've been meaning to ask me.
Okay, this is something that has been on my mind, and I just want to hear what your thoughts are. Okay, one of the things that you often read in discussions of marriages is people will say, the thing about marriage today is that people have very, very high expectations of marriage. It used to be like way back that marriage was really, it was a financial arrangement. It was arrangement among families. It wasn't considered to be like soulmates joining. It was much more practical considerations. But these days, people have very, very high expectations of marriage. You're supposed to have somebody who's your best friend and your coach and your cheerleader and somebody who's always on your side and your romantic partner. And so the discussion around it is, oh, we have these unrealistically high expectations of marriage, and that's why people have a lot of dissatisfactions in marriage, and we ask too much. So I'm not saying that I agree or disagree. I'm just saying I often see that argument made. Do you agree, Elizabeth? Have you often seen that argument?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It's just like a thing that people are talking about. then it occurred to me, I wonder if that is actually true in many, many areas, not marriage, because I was reading something about family estrangement and talking about family relationships. And I thought, well, maybe it is that people really are expecting a lot more from their family members than they did in the past. And then I was thinking, well, what about work? I think people are expecting a lot from the workplace and from their boss and their coworkers. Eleanor's in college, and I think what people are expecting from the college experience, from friends, what we think friends, maybe partly we have very high expectations. And you could say, well, it's good to have high expectations, but we don't want to have expectations that are so high that we set ourselves up for disappointment, or when we interpret a situation that in other times might have been seen as acceptable, as really hurtful, or really someone letting us down. Because I think sometimes we let people down very obviously, but then I think sometimes we don't even know that we're letting somebody down because we don't know that something's being expected of us. And that again gets to why we need to communicate, because when we don't know what's expected of us, it's very easy for things to go wrong. But do you know what I mean about this? Is all sort of inchoate in my mind, but it's just this idea of like, maybe we're asking too much of every aspect of our lives.
I think you're right. I hadn't thought about this at all, but I absolutely think you're right. It's reminding me of a letter we got recently. I think it was about friendship and expecting a lot from friends. And, you and I pointed out, maybe you're expecting too much.
Yeah.
Because people do have a really high bar now for everything. I also think this could really help with work satisfaction. You mentioned in something you wrote that you prefer, for instance, the term enthusiasm to passion.
Yeah.
Because a passion really suggests you have to really love something that you're doing in terms of work.
A total commitment.
Yes. But enthusiasm is like, I enjoy this.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
I think that's really a smart approach. Sometimes with work, I'm just happy when I get a paycheck.
Right.
I'm glad that even just getting a paycheck makes me happy because that really lowers the bar on satisfaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're only doing something for the love of it, well, then the bar is higher.
Right.
So lowering the bar in general for everything would make all of us more satisfied.
Well, it's one of these things where there's a tension, because on the one hand, you want to aim high, you want to ask for a lot and get a lot and strive for, a lot of satisfaction. But it is true that if your expectations are too high, and I think of, we just recently had Mother's Day, and I was hearing some conversation about Mother's Day. And I think Mother's Day is one of these holidays where in some families, it's a very, very big deal. There's like a very clear tradition, and this is what is happening. And then in other families, they might not even mention it, or maybe you would just get a text where it's like Happy Mother's Day or whatever.
Right.
But this is the kind of thing where people can really get their feelings hurt if they have an expectation of how other people would behave. But it's easy not to convey those expectations. And here's the thing that I've noticed is that sometimes people will try to insulate themselves from pain by saying they don't care about something. They'll be like, that's not a big deal to me. But actually, what they're hoping is that people will still go ahead and make a big deal of it. But in my observation, if you say to people, I don't care about this is a made-up holiday, doesn't matter to me if we celebrate Mother's Day, then people will probably be like, okay, she doesn't care about Mother's Day. I'm not going to go out of my way to do anything. Like, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Now, that's a very obvious case where you are sending the wrong message, but I think sometimes it's not that clear. You might think, well, everybody else's parents do X, Y, Z.
Right.
You might not even be consciously thinking that, but you're subconsciously thinking that. I think there's a lot going on here, so I just am beginning to think about it. But it did, just in hearing people's conversations, it does seem like sometimes things are so loaded. They're loaded beyond what they can bear.
Yes. And Gretchen, I'll point out, when you say it's complicated because you still want to have high expectations for your life, I think this goes to the point, though, that you can get something from different areas. So,
yes,
for instance, college. You can have an interest outside of college that you also do, whether it's volunteering or playing the piano, that adds to your life.
Right.
Your husband doesn't necessarily have to be your best friend. You can have another best friend.
Right.
Your family doesn't have to show up for every occasion. Other people can show up for certain occasions.
Right.
It's that thing of piecing together satisfaction and not expecting any one thing to
Yes.
meet every need.
Yes. I think back to I think it was called business organizations class in my first year in law school. And this class made a huge impression on me because this is where Jamie was. So like, I was like so aware of the fact that he was like 3 rows behind me. So anyway, I have very fond feelings about business organization, but our professor said the investor is wise who diversifies, meaning that you shouldn't have all your investments in one thing because then if it falls, you're completely undiversified, but you should spread your risk. And I think it's true in many, many situations. I often find myself thinking that, and it's the fluency heuristic because it rhymes. It's easier to remember and it feels more powerful in the mind. The person is wise who diversifies. Exactly. Don't think that this one area of your life, don't think like family life is going to provide. And I've been thinking about this with the empty nest, right? Because some people are like, my daughter is my best friend. So if it's like your daughter is your best friend and she's also your daughter, that's hard because then she's going to go away and be very preoccupied and probably not be communicating with you nearly as much. And you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, I lost my daughter and my best friend from my daily life. And so it's just thinking about this. But again, it's this question of what is it proper or what should we expect? Because we want to expect, I don't know. It's just, again, I feel like there's a secret of adulthood there where there's two things in tension. Both are true at the same time. So I need to articulate that. I just wanted to know what you thought.
Yes, that definitely resonates with me. And I want to try to put that into practice in my life. I'm going to try not to expect all things from all things.
Well, it's just making me think in terms of the workplace, because then I'm thinking about what you said, that like as a boss, you might feel like the people who I'm working with are expecting too much from me as a boss.
And it can go the other way.
And it can go the other way. Exactly. Okay. Well, we'll have to think this through.
Yes.
Listeners, let us know. What do you think in this inchoate observation?
Okay, Gretchen, what is our spotlight on a tool this week?
Well, Father's Day here in the United States is coming up on June 15th, Sunday. And if you are not sure about a gift that you want to give to a father or a father figure in your life, you can take the gift giving quiz. This is such a fun quiz, and it will tell you what his gift appreciation type is. And once you know someone's gift appreciation type, you really have a lot of clues about the kind of gift that would be likely to please them. So the person you're buying a gift for might be an easy to please, a tried and true, an enthusiast, or a connoisseur. So take the quiz. It's at happiercast.com/gift quiz, or you can just go to gretchenrubin.com and look at the quiz section for the gift giving quiz. That'll give you a lot of gift ideas.
I love the gift giving quiz. It has such good specific suggestions.
Well, one of the things I like about the quiz is it is a little bit whimsical. And listen, we love whimsy. And we are actually going to do a very special episode coming up about ideas for introducing whimsy into everyday life. This is super fun. We know that this really resonates with people. This is just a way to add a little bit of levity, a little bit of a surprise to everyday life. It just elevates ordinary existence. So we really want ideas. How have you introduced whimsy into your life? Alyssa, I'll tell you some whimsy for our lake house. Well, you've seen it. I don't know if you even noticed it because we were so overwhelmed at Thanksgiving, but on the ceiling of one of the rooms, there is a map of the lake, but it has made up names for all of the places. So there's like Pirate Cove, there's actually not a Pirate Cove on that lake, but it's just that little bit of whimsy that came with the house. And I love it so much. So, not everybody wants to paint a map on the ceiling of a room, but there are probably lots of easier ways to introduce whimsy, and we are making a collection, so let us know for our upcoming very special episode.
Yes, I can't wait for this because I need whimsy. Absolutely.
We all do.
All right, Gretch, coming up, we've got a question along the lines of our recent question of, do you love to feed? But first, this break. As we grow wiser, we become more intentional about what we put in our bodies, which is why we're delighted to share Gia's non-alcoholic aperitifs with you. What's remarkable about Gia is there's absolutely no added sugar and, of course, zero alcohol. Instead of the hidden sugars found in most wine spritzers or cocktails that can affect our energy levels and metabolic health, Gia uses only pure botanicals like yuzu, rosemary, and elderflower for its sophisticated, bright, and bold flavor. Gretch, I love taking a really nice glass. I care about my glassware. And having that drink, but it's so nice to have it feel special, but not be alcoholic.
And there's so many great flavors: Gia ginger, lemon salt, sumac and chili, or Gia soda. Look for Gia products at a Target or Whole Foods near you and enjoy a special discount when you shop on drinkgia.com. Use code HAPPIER at checkout and get 20% off your order. That's drinkgia.com and use code HAPPIER for 20% off.
You know what doesn't belong in your epic summer plans? Getting burned by your old wireless bill. While you're planning beach trips, barbecues, and 3-day weekends, your wireless bill should be the last thing holding you back. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network.
This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get your summer savings and shop premium wireless plans at mintmobile.com/Gretchen. That's mintmobile.com/Gretchen. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month, 5-gigabyte plan required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
All right, Gretch, we're back with something else you've been meaning to ask me.
Yes. Okay. So for my Empty Nest Open Door project, I have been thinking about this question, and clearly I think it resonated a lot with listeners. And so I'm kind of extending it. So my original observation was that sometimes there's something that we really enjoy that is an aspect that's related to family life, but it is not essential to family life. So there's some aspect of it that you really, really get a lot of satisfaction from, and you think of it as being part of it, but it's actually separate. So the example that I gave last time was, do you love to feed? Because some people really just love to feed. They just love serving up food and giving people seconds and like opening up their pantry to a bunch of teenagers. It's very associated with family life, but it's not actually part of family life. And a lot of people had really fascinating responses to that. So my related question is, do you love to provision? And I would love to hear people's response to this. So by do you love to provision, I mean, do you love to buy needful things? So this is different from loving to buy like a luxury or a little treat, or you're buying things for enjoyment. It's that you like the kind of hunting and gathering of the things we need to live our lives, the needful things.
Yes, I think Sarah, my co-host of Happier in Hollywood, absolutely has this. She loves to provision. So like, now she has chickens. She loves to get all the things that you need when you have chickens. Or she's great about preparing for a camping trip. She loves to provision a camping trip. Or a go bag for if you have to evacuate. I assume she must enjoy it because she always, I feel like, is doing it.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing is maybe if you love to provision, you're very open to situations that would create a need to provision, like having chickens. Whereas if you really do not like to provision, you would be like, oh my gosh, I'd be overwhelmed. Like there'd all be all this stuff I would need to buy, and I would have to keep up with it, and I would have to pay attention to it. So again, you might associate provisioning with family life, but it's not essential to it. So Elizabeth, how about you? Do you love to provision? I think I know the answer to this.
I do not in general love to provision. I will say when we were getting ready for our walking trip in England last summer with Wilderness England, I did really enjoy provisioning for that, going to the store and getting my gaiters and getting a beanie and all of these things that I needed for the trip. That was enjoyable, probably because I was excited to go.
I believe you went to the boot store 4 times. I don't think that was the most enjoyable part of the provisioning.
Yes, that was not fun. But you know what I was thinking about, Gretchen, is a scene I always love in any book or wherever it takes place is the provisioning scene. There's always that scene when the person goes to the general store and gets, a bag of rice and a knife and a flint or whatever they need and gets their provisions. And I always do find that very satisfying.
Interesting.
Do you know the scene I'm talking about?
100%. I know exactly what you're talking about. And then I'm also wondering if it's related to enjoying stores, pantries, Do you remember that scene in Little House in the Big Woods where they're playing up in the attic and there's the description of everything hanging from the ceiling and the dried
Yes.
pumpkins and like they're playing and you just have this feeling of like they put away all this food for the winter and it just feels like this feeling of we're ready for anything, like we're hunkered down. I do feel like that is very, very satisfying. I wonder what it was about the UK trip, maybe because it was very limited or that we actually had a list. So there was very little decision fatigue. Why do you think that stood out in your mind as being enjoyable when usually it is not enjoyable?
I think you're right. I think it's that we had a list, so I didn't have to figure it out. It wasn't like even provisioning for, a camping trip where there might be, not that I go camping, but where there would be a suggested list. This was a very specific list. So it was, yes, you could check the items off.
But Elizabeth, I don't think that you've enjoyed getting Jack ready for camp, right? And that's kind of the same
true.
thing.
Yes.
Was it that it was a vacation, maybe, that it was something that you were preparing yourself for? I don't know. It's interesting why sometimes it might be fun and sometimes it might not be fun.
Do you enjoy provisioning?
Well, usually I do not enjoy provisioning, but you're right. There are certain exceptions. With my doing watercolor every single day, I really did enjoy buying the supplies for that. And it was funny. It feels more satisfying when I'm like, I actually need this. This is a thing that I am going to use. I actually need a size 10 round brush, or I need the paper that I bought before was too big. And so now I need to get a pad of paper that's this size because this is the right size for me. I liked it when it felt like a needful thing, but then when it was feeling like, oh, I'm just having fun and like kind of letting myself go and buy luxury, that didn't feel as fun. And that's why I made the rule for myself that I couldn't buy anything that I didn't already have for 2 months because I wanted to make sure that I was really buying the things that I would actually use and need. And I was like, if I don't have enough experience, I'm just going to end up buying a bunch of stuff because it's fun. It's like, oh, it's fun to buy all these supplies.
Well, here's a thought about why I enjoyed preparing for our walking trip. And that is because maybe it was associated with my fantasy self. So my fantasy self takes trips to England and just walks for days and stays in little country inns. And it was a time when my fantasy self and my real self were merging into one. And so I was enjoying that. And maybe for you, like with the art supplies, your fantasy self does watercolor every day. And you're merging.
That is fascinating. Maybe that is a sign that you're on the right track.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Yes, when you're merging.
I forget who said this. It's an aphorism and I'm forgetting the attribution, but it's the true test of a vocation is the love of the drudgery involved. And I often think of that. Do you love the drudgery? And maybe the test of something where you're pushing yourself outside the comfort zone, arguably closer to your fantasy self, but maybe it could be your real self is this part of what you enjoy? Because I wonder about that. We're going to have to think about that because that would be a very useful tell.
Yes.
Because I think one of the things people often think of is like, I want to do this, but I want to be realistic. I don't want to just pretend like I'm going to do all this stuff. And well, because there's also the problem when people love to buy all this stuff and then they don't actually do it. So that itself, because that is the thing where you're telling yourself it's a needful thing, but it's not actually a needful thing because you're not actually going to use it. But sometimes you don't know. It can all be very confusing. But it's fascinating to think about.
Yeah, you know what else I remember, Gretchen, is when I was just about to give birth to Jack, I had all these provisions for that, and that I really enjoyed. And I remember our guest room was filled with all these things that weren't yet opened. So it was like boxes of things and things wrapped in plastic. And I remember sleeping sometimes in the guest room because I was having trouble sleeping. And I loved being surrounded by all of those baby provisions. It gave me a great feeling of comfort that I had everything and excitement.
Exactly. And then there is nesting. This is like the instinct to sort of get everything organized for a new baby. I remember Eliza got put on bed rest. So they were really like, unless you're going to the bathroom, maybe you can occasionally take a shower, but you really should stay in bed rest, which by the way, now I don't think they would tell you to do that, but that's what they told me to do. But I remember sometimes I simply could not resist going into her room and reorganizing the onesies or like making different piles of little newborn diapers because that urge to like look at all the stuff and organize it was so strong. And I think that's the provisioning. Like, do I have what I need? And just the pleasure of getting those things assembled. But you could see if you really love to provision, then family life would give you a lot of vacations. Like your children are growing. So you're constantly like, now we need to buy you a new set of sneakers. And now we need to get you ready for the school year. And now we need to get ready for the family camping trip. And now we're going to go visit the grandparents. And like, do you have all your stuff? Like there is this provisioning aspect to it, but it can be seen as something that is distinct from family life. It's part of it, but it's not essential to it.
Very interesting. Okay, Gretch, finally, what is our quotation this week?
This is an observation from Charles Caleb Colton. We are more apt to catch the vices of others than their virtues, as disease is far more contagious than health.
Very true.
So, Elizabeth, are you feeling happier?
Yes, I am feeling happier. Thank you to Chuck. Bye, Gretch.
Bye, Elizabeth. The best time to start a happiness project is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So, Elizabeth, we need to provision ourselves for our reading retreat, which means we're going to have to figure out what is the stack of books that we are going to bring with us. I'm trying to figure out what my vision is. And of course, it has to be something that I already own since I'm doing my Sundoku summer. Have you started thinking about that?
Yes, well, I was thinking, am I going to bring one big book to tackle or a bunch of fast books? That's on my mind.
We can bring one copy of War and Peace. We both don't need to bring that.
Oh, yes, that is true.
From the Onward Project.